Hi, I'm Aaron Raw, and you're watching Atheist Edge.
It's okay. Let's roll right back in there. So anyway, Jeff, the way I understand it, he was bucking for promotion. He wanted to become the head honcho general in the army. And to do so, he needed to win this battle. Mm-hmm. And so to gain favor with the Lord, he made a promise that if God would grant him victory in this battle so he could get promoted to that top general position, when he came back home, the first thing to walk out of his door was going to get the axe, a sacrifice to God. Mm-hmm. I don't know what he was thinking, that maybe a goat was going to be the first one to walk out. It definitely was going to be a family member. And so sure enough, he wins the battle, comes back, daughter comes running out. I'm going to need to put you down. And he didn't, she begged, hey, let me go up the mountain for a month or so and bewail my virginity, which means, I guess, just go up there and cry for a month because she never had sex. And then
she was never going to have kids. That was...
Okay. Anyway, she went up a mountain for a month and cried about never being able to have kids then, or sex, whichever. And then it implied that he went ahead and did the deed. God didn't hold his hand, did not stay his hand. He killed her.
I don't think the Bible says that he killed her. I think what we see is that this is very much an issue of, I mean, her response tells you everything. She wasn't saying, that I'm not going to live anymore. She's mourning the fact that she's not going to have children anymore. And so... Okay.
But doesn't it say he killed her? We're going to have to look that one up.
We can look it up here. Let's see. I have the passage right here. It's Judges 11.
Yeah, get pretty much to the end, because if it does say it, it'll say it at the very end, after the bewailing of virginity. I know it doesn't come out and say it, but it heavily implies that he went ahead and slit her throat. And I don't mean to be pulling out the worst parts of the Bible, but I'm just pointing out one example where, you said Abraham, he didn't really let him kill Isaac, or whoever that was. Was it Isaac on the pyre? Yeah. So, I mean, I guess it would make, I want to look and make sure that is actually.
Yeah, well, and even, I mean, we could even pull back for a moment and say, did God command him to kill her?
Because it was all on Jephthah's
promise. That's on his watch if he even did go through and kill her or not. That's speaking more about the rashness of his vow.
It wasn't a direct command from God. It was just him saying, I'm going to do this for you, God.
Mm-hmm. And then of course understanding the culture, the Bible tells us in the Pentateuch, it's better to not vow a vow than to vow a vow and break a vow. So to not break the vow would be very important to him. Yeah. So.
Okay. All right. Sorry for the tangent.
Oh, that's okay.
All right.
That's
so
okay.
Here we go.
So let's just kind of review this. In 90 seconds, this whole thing's over. She's had 2 hits, which were you're not a nurse and your husband died of an illness.
He said, you loved and cared for me in a way that I was able to leave the physical world with dignity and grace. And you're not a nurse, is that correct?
Correct.
And he says, but you gave me that. And he says, and I want to thank you for that. The day that he became sick, you dropped everything and cared for him.
I don't know if it takes
another hit, the original hit where someone on that side of the room had lost somebody.
Yeah. And so and it's all over. And her one miss is, did your husband eat oatmeal?
Now, what was with the oatmeal? Or did you used to make him eat a certain food or something? Okay, this is my meaning. See, my meaning in signs and symbols, it doesn't mean that they're incorrect. It means that it might just have a different meaning for you. So what happened is I saw chocolate all around his face. That's my symbol for somebody was either diabetic or they were not allowed to eat certain foods here in the physical world.
You would think that the odds would be with you pretty much.
Or food allergy.
Yeah, or a food allergy or something like that. So that's one reading. That's cold readings. Okay, that's probably the most common. But then you have this thing called warm readings. Now, warm readings is research that's done on a person ahead of time, unbeknownst to them, for the psychic or medium, then to be able to. This is where we get into the whole Peter Popper thing.
Pop-Off?
Pop-Off. I'm sorry.
That was hot reading. Or is that going to be your third one? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's my third one.
Hot reading is you getting it... Okay,
yeah.
sorry.
So on the warm read, so what he was... And one of the ways that they figured out, yes, there was the earpiece,
yes.
But the information that he was being fed, what would happen is when people would buy tickets to their show, on Ticketmaster, whatever it was, they're using their credit card, and then from there they would find out information about this person. They would know where they lived. Sometimes they would go and hire a private eye to go follow this person, gain information from them, and then he has the earpiece, and there's somebody going, okay, think about it. You bought the ticket. So they know what ticket they sold you. Hey, go over to section E, row 5, seat 4. This is John Smith. John works for Acme Corporation, and his daughter died in a car accident 2 years ago. And now all of a sudden it's like, wow, what do you know?
What percentage of active mediums, whether on camera or just in your neighborhood, are knowingly, willfully devious like this? What percentage?
There's no way to know. I mean, other than the ones that
gun to your head,
caught.
Just ballpark guess.
Oh man, I don't know.
Over 90%.
It would be really hard to say.
I would guess at least 90, 95.
But you got to think, to this day and age with Facebook, I mean, you could figure out stuff about people without really it being any expense to you.
But that's being knowingly,
willfully.
Deliberately
Oh, absolutely.
devious,
Yeah. What I'm saying is today a warm
so
reading
easy.
is so much easier than it was back then.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, really adds to the intrigue of it when we turn the hands maybe 20 years back in 20 years previous. That it's a lot easier with the invention of Facebook and social media and internet. It's not as hard.
One more tangent.
Yes.
But it'll be just
okay.
real quick, I promise.
It's okay.
All right, so I've been Uber and Lyft driving for about 3 years now, right? So on the long rides, just to kill time, I played this little thing called Sherlock Scan.
Okay.
And if they want to play it, they can. And really, I just need to see the back of your hand, the front of your hand. And on Reddit, there's a thing called the science of deduction, a little thread I've been following. It's little tips for how to abductive reasoning. It's like inductive reasoning, or it's a type of reasoning where you can just put, just like you were saying, if you get one hit and you get another hit, you can put those two hits together and they synergize, you can get another hit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I play this, I look at the back of their hand, the palm of their hand, you can get so much information on that. Wedding ring, if there's no wedding ring, but there's a tan line, there's calluses, the fingernails, what kind of grooming standard, and then you look at their shoes and the top of their head, and then I look at some other things, and I ask them a couple questions first, and then I just sit and I go into like Sherlock Holmes, he goes into his mind palace. So I sit, that's why it's for the long rides, because it takes me about 10 or 15 minutes just to kind of get it all straight in my head. All right, because I look back there, okay, let me see the back of your head again, okay. And so I'm driving along, and then in 15 minutes, then I go, and then I used to strike out quite a bit, but now, I mean, I got to where I scare myself. And I'm not trying to be willfully devious, and I'm not trying to take their money.
You're having fun with them.
And I'm not trying to say that I'm talking to a dead spirit either. Mm-hmm. And they think it's magic. I mean, I've had one person say, pull over. She was just kind of kidding, but she said, pull over. I think that's witchcraft. But she was laughing as she said it. And I said, I'm not going to even tell you how I knew. But trust me that I said this to her. I was taking her to the airport, and I knew which terminal it was. And I had seen the calluses on her fingers. I saw her, she's an endomorph, she, kind of underweight. And I saw the baggage that she put in my trunk before we got in the car. So just based on that, and maybe a couple other things, I said, you are on your way to the southeast, probably Florida. It's probably where you live. You're probably here to see somebody, probably your fiance, and you're about to, you're setting up wedding plans, and he's coming out to live with you. You guys went to college together here in Texas. And you probably work somewhere down south, Florida, maybe Miami, Fort Lauderdale, somewhere, I don't know. And you're a musician, and you probably play the cello professionally, and you probably just started, and you're a left-handed vegetarian. And out of all that, she didn't play the cello. She played the violin in the Miami Symphony Orchestra.
And then you could just tell her, well, I never really paid attention to that anyway. So
that's all I got wrong was she was a violin instead of cello.
Dude. Hey, you have a future in being a psychic if you want to be in it. So
it's so fun to do.
It's in. Okay, so check this out.
Okay.
We met Michael Shermer. You and I both did not too long ago. And one thing that he did, I mean, this is something that happened a while back, but James Van Prague went to an ABC affiliate in Seattle, and he was going to do a reading, and he did a reading for a member of their staff. And he does this reading. He asks 35 questions. He gets 7 hits, 29 misses. So, what was that, 19%? Well, Michael Shermer comes in, and they tell this lady's crying, and oh my goodness,
just
thank
7
you so
hits.
much. Yes.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness, it's so wonderful. And then Michael Shermer comes in and says, I want to do a reading on this lady also. But I want her to know that I'm Michael Shermer, I'm a skeptic. I don't believe that any of this is real. And I want her to know that up front. And they said, okay, so they arrange it. She agreed to do it. He asked 19 questions. He gets 7 hits, 12 misses. That's 37% accuracy.
Similar to what the other guy got.
And she knew that he was a skeptic. Now, and there were no tears with her.
Exactly.
There was no. And so you see how much of this is emotionally driven with folks. They want to know. I think it's what makes it sad. All right, let's talk about hot readings. Hot readings is the third one.
Okay.
Now, hot reading is when they actually pay somebody as an actor or an actress to play a part and to do this. In fact, there's been an allegation of hot readings with Teresa Caputo. She had one episode where she went to a motorcycle shop and did a reading on one of the employees. Well, what we later found out was that was actually the motorcycle shop that her husband owns, and that was one of his employees. And so, at best, it was a warm reading. At worst, it was a hot reading. So, you have... Or,
Occam's razor.
Yeah.
What's the simplest explanation
well,
there?
and even if it, even if it was legitimate, you're working under such a guise of deception that you wouldn't even come out and say, hey, I'm at my husband's motorcycle shop today, and yeah, this is John. I've known John for 3 years, but when I give him this reading, to me it's, I don't know, it goes into this, and you ask the question of are these folks ever challenged? And we've talked about a couple different instances where these people have been called out. And as a matter of fact, they have been challenged throughout the years, and they are challenged. One of them is through the James Randi Educational Foundation, that for years, and now how all this got started is James Randi was going on his show, and he had developed a test.
We've talked about it in a previous video,
Okay.
so you go back and look at it, the $1 Million Challenge.
Yes,
you're talking about.
Now
Right.
they're not doing it anymore, but somebody, someone says, "Hey, put your money where your mouth is," and so he starts out with 1,000, then it goes to 10.
Mm-hmm.
Then somebody donates $1 million to put out there, and so he throws this challenge out there, and you got to think, if this is for real. I mean, is that not just saying, "Please give me $1 million"? But yet, no one's ever done it. No one's ever won. Now, there was the April Fool's joke that was done, but
on stage, I saw that.
the late Sylvia Brown.
That's the one I was thinking
Yeah,
of.
she was issued the challenge twice on Larry King Live. Each time she accepted it, but she never followed through. In fact, for a while on their website, they had a running clock that was like the number of weeks or something since she had accepted the challenge and failed to follow up on it.
Why is it you have such a, pardon the expression, hard-on for me? I mean, what is it with you and I when we're both Jewish?
Asked me, you lied to me on May 16th of 2003 on Larry's show and when I was a caller. I asked you, why do you keep promising to be tested by the James Randi Educational Foundation
Because
your alleged psychic... Wait a minute, I asked you why you've been avoiding his test. You said Randy can't verify that he has the money. Randy and I both, you said if I send you or Randy sends you verification of the money, that you would take the test. You said that on Larry's show on May 16th.
Yes, I did.
What did you send
We
her?
sent you verification of the money, Sylvia, and you refused the mail and returned it to sender. So I thought I'd show it to you tonight so that you can't avoid that any longer.
Oh, that's good.
A big reason I have it in for her, if you want to call it that, is the misinformation effect when she does health readings, which I consider to be potentially very dangerous. She told a caller on your program who was looking for information on her dead husband, that she says, "Oh, I see a clot." The lady on the phone says, "Yes, he had a massive hemorrhage." It looked like a bullseye, Larry. Randy was on your program that night. You thought it was a bullseye. It wasn't a bullseye, though, because the medical establishment contacted Randy soon after and said, "Do you realize that a clot is the actual opposite of a hemorrhage.
It's simple. Beforehand, you just got to get together. Both sides have to get together and agree on what the test conditions are going to be.
And
It's easy money.
It's not that
Yeah,
hard.
the dowsing we talked about. A lot of people have tried.
Yeah.
That's a good segue into with the heart reading. It's kind of a segue. Back to kind of religion, to tie this in religion, faith healing. All right, so these faith healers, like, because when you said heart reading, it sparked something in my memory about, some are plants, some people are plants, and we know, even you will admit, probably the majority of them are being dishonest in some form or fashion.
Well,
Plants, or, I've just recently realized this, or someone came to be aware of this, but a lot of times it's not really as devious as you think, because this guy might come in kind of limping, kind of on a cane, right? He might be on a cane, but the staff will be, before the show starts, staff will bring a wheel. Hey, this will be easier let's get you up front, and of course he's going to take it. Go ahead and sit in this wheelchair. We'll bring you down. He could walk. He was on a cane, but now here's this guy in a wheelchair. So when he gets up and starts walking, it looks even bigger.
Oh yeah.
So what percentage? Okay, first off, the most important question up front. Does faith healing work? Is it a thing?
In that context of like the Benny Hinn world?
Can you or I call down the power of Christ to heal someone instantly, ever?
We can ask God for healing, and I do believe that God heals, but
can it happen instantly?
With God, all things are possible.
Do you think it happens instantly?
I think that it can. To have to go to different, we would have to find an example and verify it and whatnot for me to say. I think what you see with like your Benny Hinns of the world and stuff like that, I'm not buying that. If you're asking my opinion, no, absolutely not.
Round one, fight! 真空真昇竜拳かかってきなこいつは楽しめそうだ竜巻旋風拳真空竜巻
The faith healers that are out there, to me, no. I don't think that that's true at all. For the simple fact of one, these would have to be some pretty morally depraved people if you had the ability that I could just come and lay my hands on you and you're instantly healed. Am I not like the biggest jerk in the world for not going
doing it all
to the children's cancer ward and boom, 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 boom.
You win.
Because if I was a faith healer, first of all, I wouldn't worry about money because people would be giving me money just as a gift all the way around. Can you imagine if your kid had something terribly wrong with them and someone just came and said, wait, hold on, you got the phone call? Okay, this is what I need you to do. Boom, they're healed. Out of a gratitude and appreciation.
You wouldn't have to worry about money.
Yeah, and so that wouldn't be a driving force.
Okay, so the legitimate healing through intercessory prayer. You, of course, believe that. And it may not be immediate, but you do believe in its effectiveness.
Oh, yeah.
Even though every statistical study, every scientific study has shown it no more effective than random chance. Everything published in its peer-reviewed journal has shown intercessory prayer no more effective than random chance.
I would be very interested to go and look at a lot of the data on that because I have heard.
I'm going to throw a couple links in the bottom.
I've heard some doctors say, and maybe I can send you something on the end of it.
Yes.
That talk about
I'll throw that on
the issue of prayer and the effects that it has on the patient. And of course, I realize the pushback on that from the psychological aspect of almost like a placebo effect type
Oh
idea.
yeah, there's that.
And so that's why I would be very cautious to say, wait, hold on, all peer reviewed would say that this had no effect, because for the placebo,
not no effect, but no greater than random chance.
Oh,
yeah.
That would be very. I
And
don't know how they would measure that. I'm sure that they had some ways that they
Yeah, they had controls.
established that,
it was double
so.
blind. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can show you the results. Okay, so prayer, intercessory, what was it? Oh, so now we're only talking about illnesses or injuries that can't really readily be seen with the naked eye.
Uh-huh.
Now, of course, you've heard, can God heal amputees?
Yeah.
You've heard that one before?
Yeah, I've
So
heard
what's your
that.
response to that? I know it's old tired, but I mean, if he can heal, and if, theoretically we should be able to pray, and someone that got his leg blown off in Afghanistan
Sure.
had wake up the next morning have a new leg. Why aren't we seeing that?
Well, I mean, first of all, God could if He wanted to, but we also have to understand is that there's so much more than what goes on. Maybe God's purpose for this person's life is greater fulfilled through them not having their right leg. And I know that sounds gruesome, and it almost sounds mean-spirited.
But don't you think it would have happened at least once? I mean, if all these cancers are getting cured, don't you think just all I need is one leg?
Yeah.
Just
Well,
one person with a grown leg back.
I believe in the sovereignty of God, so I think that I mean, if God certainly wanted to do it, if it would fulfill His purpose in some way, shape, or form, then that would certainly be the case. But then again,
Does it give you pause that it's just these external, which of course would be God revealing Himself in a way that maybe He doesn't want to be revealed? Because if you saw someone, that would be some pretty solid evidence. Someone like me would go, that guy just grew a damn leg back.
Yeah.
There might be something to all this.
And
Maybe He doesn't want us to come to Him through anything other than a blind faith.
Well, I would definitely
No?
vehemently disagree with with blind faith. I don't
Not
think,
blind, but a faith where you kind of, is there another way to say it besides blind?
Well,
A faith where
because-
you don't have all the facts up there in front of your face.
yeah, for me, faith is trusting in God.
Yeah,
That's
we've
what
talked
it is.
about this
Yeah.
before.
I look at it like this, and I talked to you about Luke 16 earlier, and the whole the rich man dies, and he's having this communication. He sees Lazarus afar off, the beggar, not the other Lazarus, and he's saying, you know, I'm tormented in this flame, and ultimately at the end of the story, he says, Abraham, would you send Lazarus back to my 5 brothers, so that, because if they saw someone raised from the dead, they would believe. And Abraham's response is, you know, they have the prophets, they have the Torah, if you will. Let them believe them, because if they won't believe that, they're not going to believe that one came back from the dead. So if a guy magically got his leg back or his arm back, it would just be a matter of time where we would start trying to rationalize it, saying, well, this was some kind of phenomenon where he was able to grow it back, or there would be some kind of way to discredit or discount it. Somebody out there would. I'm not saying you would, but
I might,
but,
or I don't know what I'd.
But I mean, maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't.
Of course, I would immediately try to jump at a scientific, at a naturalistic explanation, because the definition of a miracle is an event or a phenomenon that is, by its very definition, the least probable explanation.
A supernatural event.
Of course, that's going to be my last option. It should be your last option too. Not everything's going to be a miracle.
Well, and I think we also have to look at miracles for a moment. Think about all the miracles that were in the Bible. It's the same illustration I gave earlier with demonic activity. How many miracles have really happened throughout the course of human history? The Bible records a number of miracles, but let's just be honest, it's not like that they were happening every day. Now, I know there was a lot during the time of Christ, but Christ was doing miracles for a different reason. He wasn't healing people to be a nice guy. He was healing people to give a sign that he was the Messiah, to show that he was who he said he was, because the Old Testament prophesied that the Messiah would come and cause the blind to see and heal the lame. And so
you think miracles are occurring at the same rate now? It's just that the Bible, it seems like there's so many because it's over such a large time period.
Plus, I mean, you know, we're jumping into this one passage and we're jumping ahead 2,000 years later to read from this other passage, and we're acting like they happened 2 days apart or 2 hours apart. And so I think it could just as much be an issue now, the same rate now that it was back then. I mean,
subtle now compared to back then. It's no booming voices. It's no burning bushes. It's no people walking on water and turning, to wine.
Yeah. Well, we said we were going to talk about the Ouija board, and we kind of talked about the Ouija
Yeah.
board a little bit.
Blindfolding them does not affect their performance. Now, of course, like you were saying, it could be a subconscious, but you said also there's always a chance of, demonic forces could be pushing that around. But then when you turn that board 90 degrees without them knowing, they're not smelling anything.
To me, if you turn the board 90 degrees and you're still getting stuff, then
I would start thinking.
Yeah, then,
it just doesn't happen though, Brady.
The sirens would need to start going
Yes.
off, and so
It just doesn't happen though.
And again, it's one of those deals. And I mean, for any Christians that are watching, and maybe there are Christians watching. Who knows?
I got a bunch. Look
you
at my comment section.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad. Keep commenting, by the way. But speak the truth in love. I don't want to sound like I'm discounting it or discounting demonic or unfamiliar spirits, because I'm certainly not. But at the same time, how much of it is there? I'm saying it's a doorway. It's opening yourself up to it. But I think that there probably would be times where that board could be turned 90 degrees, and it could be, or better yet, let's make it 45 and really make things interesting. It's just funny though, because you look at the Ouija board, and there's been Ouija board like instruments for
1100 China.
Yeah,
right.
You go back to China. I had 6th century China. I also had
6th century. Wow. Okay.
BC. It goes as far back there.
But the word Ouija, talk about that.
No. Yeah, let's talk about that for a moment. First of all, there's a lot of push on this. The guy by the name of Charles Kennard, who I really think is probably the inventor of the modern day Ouija board. I'll explain that more why I think that in a minute. But he said that the board gave him the name Ouija. It's spelled out Ouija, and then that it was close to an Egyptian word that means good luck. The problem is that there's no Egyptian word close to Ouija that means good luck.
He said it was a form of ancient Egyptian that we don't know
Yeah,
anymore.
And it's like...
But it just so happened, when he came up with it during a seance, he happened to, at the time, did you get this in your research? He happened at the time to have been fixated on a locket that a woman was wearing. And in the locket was a woman, and her name was Ouida. Ouida, and he knew her. He knew this woman's name, Ouida, and he just kind of transposed the word.
Yeah, but what's interesting is that it's actually the French word "oui," which is yes, and then the German word "ja," which is yes also.
It's just a play. Yes, it's a modern play on the old talking boards from India.
In fact, I mean that's
or China.
Yeah, I mean we see. Well, I think they were in India. I think they've been everywhere. Whether they might look a little different, but what you see is in kind of looking through how this thing works for those who aren't familiar with the Ouija board at all. There is a tear drop or heart almost like looking object with 3 little pegs called a planchette.
Right behind us will be a picture, I'm almost certain.
Well, now how these originally work is some say this is all comes from this guy named M. Planchette, and which is really weird because there's absolutely no evidence that there was a guy by the name of M. Planchette who made it. But the word planchette is a French word that means small plank. And,
I thought, okay, that makes sense.
And so now how these were originally used is not so much as a pointer on a Ouija board, but there would be a hole at the point of it where you could put a pencil or a piece of lead, and it would be used to do what's called automatic writings. And so what would happen is whether you or a group of you, everybody put their hand on it, and then the spirit would move and would write out things that it was wanting to tell you. And so therefore you would have that's called automatic writings. Now, how it's used in the Ouija board today is that everybody puts their hand on it, and it has an open spot, and whatever letter it goes by, or if it goes to yes or no or goodbye, whatever the case is, that's how it's communicating to you what's actually taking place. So